Hi, I'm Mike Mercer. I'd like to welcome you to Empower You. Tonight's guest is G. Van Fleet. You might have heard about G a number of years ago. She spoke up at a Loudoun County, Virginia school board meeting about how uh, wokeness was becoming in America was starting to resemble what she experienced under Mao in China before she came to America. And that she ended up becoming a big celebrity in conservative circles and became a book author. So we'll be speaking with Xi tonight. I want to mention I'll also be joined by Empower You board member Barb Horwitz. Barb was actually the person who thought of inviting Xi and who reached out to her and invited her. And Barb had a sort of uh, she has deep interest in Xi's background, and she had come up with a lot of questions from a different perspective than I'd come up with, and we talked, and we decided it'd be really better for the audience if both of us spoke to Xi. So we'll do things a little differently tonight. We'll have a three-way conversation, which I think will be, a richer experience for the audience. Now, I would like to welcome Barb, if you want to come on before we introduce Xi. So again, Barb Horwitz. Barb's an attorney, but she's a longtime Empower You board member, and I'm really, Barb, I really want to thank you for joining us. I know you didn't plan on this, right? It's just been a couple of days since I asked you, but I really do appreciate it, and I think everyone's going to appreciate your joining us to make it
Now,
a richer
now that I'm
conversation.
here, I'm enjoying it so far.
Okay,
Glad to
okay,
be here with everyone.
okay. All right, now I would like to introduce Xi formally. So as I mentioned, Xi first came to sort of national renown when she spoke out at the Loudoun County, Virginia school board meeting, and she was just acting as a citizen, feeling like she's doing a duty, and she recognized that wokeness in America and critical race theory were really sounded like communism in China. So
Oh,
she spoke out.
I can't. Yeah.
She spoke out for a minute at that board meeting, and it went viral. And she since then she's been on every Fox News, Hannity, and Tucker Carlson, and she's authored a book which we'll discuss, Mao's America: A Survivor's Warning, and she has a second book coming out. Um, but G, you were born in China, and you actually you were 16 when when you were the Cultural Revolution emerged, and you were sent to a re-education camp.
And no, the Cultural Revolution started when I was 7.
7, okay.
And when I graduated from high school at the age of 16, I was sent to the countryside to get my re-education.
Wow.
And I labored in the fields for 3 years.
Wow. So we want to welcome you and thank you for joining us. So
well, thank you so much for having me.
I thought I'd start off because I watched a lot of interviews with you to prepare for this, and I've read articles, and people always reference your speech at that. It's only a minute long, right, at the Loudoun County, Virginia.
Yes.
But I had actually, it had been 4 years since I had heard it, and I'm sure there are people in the audience who haven't heard it or who forget about it. So if you don't mind, I'd like to just play it. It's only a minute, and I'll
less than a minute. I spared a few. We were only giving 1 minute, and they will cut you off if you go beyond. And I saved a few seconds. I think it's not quite a minute.
Okay. All right. Well, let me see if I can do this here. I downloaded it so I could boost the volume.
I've been very alarmed about what's going on in our school. You are now training our children to be social justice warriors and to loathe our country and our history. Growing up in Mao's China, all this seemed very familiar. The communist regime used the same critical theories to divide people. The only difference is they use class instead of race. During the Cultural Revolution, I witnessed students and teachers turn against each other. We changed school names to be politically correct. We were taught to denounce our heritage. The Red Guards destroy anything that is not communist. Old statues, books, and anything else. We are also encouraged to report on each other, just like the Student Equity Ambassador Program and the bias reporting system. This is indeed the American version of the Chinese Cultural Revolution. The critical race theory has its roots in cultural Marxism. It should have no place in our schools.
So that you mentioned before we came on, you said that sort of went viral and it drew you into this public sphere that you had no intention or never imagined you'd be drawn into. Could you just tell us, before we get into your experience in China, could you just tell us a little bit about what that experience was like? What happened after you gave that speech?
Yeah, yeah. And I was never involved politically, and which is something I want to talk a little more later, because I thought I come to this free country and freedom is a given. I paid no attention to politics until really seriously 2020. And I just saw this is cultural revolution. This is exactly what I experienced as a child. So I decided to get involved. And just because I got involved, I was, receiving emails, and one of them is urge the members of the Loudoun County Republican Committee to go to school board. And so I volunteered to go to the school board. And that's what happened. And I thought it was just a local thing, and I did my duty, and I did not expect anything. And when the following day, when Fox News called and other people called, I was like, what I said is something everyone knew. Of course, everyone knew this is the Chinese, the repeat of Chinese Cultural Revolution. But soon I found out people did not know. People still don't know. And then I realized this is my duty to really educate Americans, to wake them up. And what's going on here is something I experienced 50 years ago. It is Marxist cultural revolution. And since then, I haven't stopped. And
Wow.
so this is my something that really, really shocked me, that Americans have no idea of communism in general, very little idea of Chinese communism, and they have no idea at all that there is a cultural revolution just like this took place in China.
I have a question about that, because I understand. I mean, you're right. A lot of people, a lot of conservatives see, that there's risk, right?
Mhm.
There's risk. Like these are communist ideas, and we're moving in that direction. But I was thinking about this to prepare for this. That we don't see state initiated violence against the public, and I'm wondering what's your reaction to that? So I was thinking, like, well, should we really be nervous about this? It hasn't got to the point where there's state initiated violence against the public to repress us, right?
Mhm.
But that goes right along with your background, what you experienced with the Red Guard.
Mhm.
And if you explain to us a little bit about your background with the, I forget, the struggle sessions.
Yes, yeah.
And, if you go into that a bit, I think that you'll see the connection there.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. So, like Michael said, when you think about communism, you think about the violence by the state against its people. That is what people usually understand of communism, but not cultural revolution. That is a Marxist cultural revolution. So Mao did not use his military. And so quickly I want to explain why there was such a cultural revolution. It is because Mao felt that he was losing power. He was losing control of the country and his own party. So he launched this cultural revolution to get back his power, absolute power. So he did not use military. He did not use state violence. He did not have to. But if he used it, it looked like he was really using the state violence against his political enemies. He was very smart. He used something else. He used the kids. And so kids from universities down to elementary schools. And they are called the Red Guards. He gave them power and told them to go after those capitalist rollers. What does that mean? with capitalist rulers. He told these young people, because those young people are indoctrinated, just like the kids today. And so whatever he told them, they believed. So he said, we're in danger of losing our country because in every level of our government, we have a lot of people. They're not really communists. They're capitalists. They want to take us back to the darkness of capitalism, so that we all will lose our freedom, will be exploited by a few, and so we need to take them down. So he gave the kids the power. So it's not the state violence, but it was the violence of people against people. In this case, the Red Guards, the kids, against whoever in power. And so for the kids, when you think about people in power, who they think first? They think about their teachers. They think about their professors and the principals. That's where they started. But eventually, and everyone in power was the target. So the Cultural Revolution started in May 1966, hardly 3 months into the Cultural Revolution, and violence erupted. The first to go was a principal of an all-girls school in middle school in Beijing. Here's something to I think people should pay attention. The first deaths, the first violence in Cultural Revolution was committed by a group of girls. The girls took out their principal and led her through a struggle session. What is a struggle session? It's a basically denunciation meeting. So she was put on stage, and the kids will gather and denounce her and ask her to confess her sins, the sins that against Chairman Mao, against the system and whatever, and beat her up and killed her. And that was in August 1966. And so actually afterwards, the girls got a little scared because after all, they killed a person. So they reported to the Central Committee of Cultural Revolution, and there was no response. And they basically, what that means is they were given license to kill. So after that, in August of 1966, in Beijing, 1,700 people were killed by the Red Guards. So this is something I try to tell American people, try to understand it. You think this is something only happened in countries like China, but it happened here. It happened in 2020. The American Red Guards burned American cities, and dozens of people died. And so don't think it's never happened here. But that in general is what happened in the Cultural Revolution. So in the following 3 years, more people were killed, and there was no one principal in China that did not was dragged through the struggle session. Many of them were killed. By the end of the Cultural Revolution, when Mao died, 10 years later in 1976, up to 20 million people lost their lives. And that's what a Cultural Revolution really looked like. In the meanwhile, what they did is not just kill people. They destroyed the Chinese culture, the Chinese civilization. They destroyed statues, temples, and burned books, and they also changed names. That's something that unfortunately become familiar to so many Americans. In Virginia, they changed the Lee Highway into whatever. I can't even remember, because Lee is a Confederate general. They changed school names I'm sorry, I have a little cold. Yeah, they erased Jefferson, and because Jefferson is a racist, and so everything I saw there in China is happening here, and that's why I decided I have to spoke up, and to speak up, I have to let Americans know this is
Did,
not just something that this is something happened before.
when I'm curious, was your speech at the school board, was it after that summer of 22, after you witnessed
Yes,
everything? Wow.
2021. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's
Wow.
June
Wow.
2021.
So
Yes.
I'm just curious. So was that summer really concerning to you? Was that like a big awakening for you that there really was this risk?
Yes, actually,
Yeah.
I did start to notice things here and there, as early as 1990s, because at first I thought the political correctness. At first I thought, yeah, it's okay that we choose kinder words for example, for people with disability, and to call certain things. I thought, yeah, it's nice. And then I noticed they keep changing, and they keep just 1 second. Uh, they demand they demand that that we comply, right? The correct words keep changing, and I just realized this kind of remind me of the Cultural Revolution, because in Cultural Revolution, we were required to use certain words, not others. If you use the wrong word, you will be denounced, possibly arrested, possibly killed. And so and there's just so much that going on here just remind me of the Chinese Cultural Revolution.
Can you tell us a little more about yourself, what you experienced growing up? I know, again, you were a young child, about 6 when the Cultural Revolution started, and it
Yes.
affected all your school years. And can you tell us a little bit about that and your family?
Yeah. I Okay, I have to say that and no one escaped Cultural Revolution. Every family suffered, and I have to say, my family, at least in my immediate family, no one died. There are others. The suffering was tremendous, but for me, it's an unforgettable experience. So I just finished my first semester when of my first grade, and the Cultural Revolution started, and the class stopped. And because the kids were after teachers and the principals, so there was no one running the school. And so one day when I went to the classroom, and so I saw the sign on the blackboard by our teacher said there's no classes in 3 days, and that 3 days turned into 2 years. So no school for 2 years, and so we were just uh, yeah, we were just out. Every day the kids were out to basically to see what's happening on the street, and what's happening on the street was really the Red Guards doing all this. At first, it was just destroying statues and graffitis and with revolutionary slogans and loudspeakers in the propaganda vehicles going around the city, and but quickly it turned into violence. So quickly we could not go to the street. It's no longer safe. People getting killed, and so eventually we stayed home and unsupervised. Why? Because our parents were doing the same thing in their workplace. They have to do the same thing. They have to go and get the capitalist rulers, the people in power, and then they denounce them, and then everyone has to examine themselves to make sure that they are in up to date with their correct thinking and all these things. So for 2 years there was no school. By the time finally school started, I was in fourth grade, and everyone just think it's normal. Fourth grade, we just missed 2 years no problem. And so all the textbooks that I use, the old textbooks, which were already made by the communists, were no longer good enough. So all banned. All the textbooks were banned. And so we only have one textbook, and that was Mao's Little Red Book. So we used that as our textbook for an entire year. So we read from, it's just a red little book. It's basically Mao's quotation book. So we read from the beginning to the end and back and forth. And I remember every line of that little quotation book. Are you familiar with this guy? He's an influencer. He's called Hassan Piker. I just learned about him. He
No.
was do you know, Michael? Have you heard about it?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Anyway, he's an influencer with millions of followers, and he just went to China, and then he was giving like a red carpet treatment by the CCP. He was praising the CCP, and then he was giving a gift. Guess what that was? Mao's Red Little Book. And he said, "This is so special. I got a Mao's Little Red Book." He had no idea. He had no idea. But for us, that was our textbook for an entire year. And eventually, time fly by. By the time I graduated from high school at the age of 16, the entire country was in ruins. And there's no jobs for urban youth. And so what did Mao do? Mao sent all of us to the countryside and to work in the fields and with the peasants. And he called it re-education. So he said, this is the best place for the young people to go. So you can really get re-educated by the peasants to be true communists. And I stayed there for 3 years after his death.
Gee, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. I was wondering if the Red Guard, was it a formalized thing where you're either were you a member of the Red Guard, or did it just refer to any kid who took action at some point?
It is complicated, but it started with a group of kids. They were all children of the party elites. And so they organized it. They called themselves, they got the name Red Guards, and Mao endorsed them. And so they started to kill people like they think is the enemy of Mao. So, but eventually they figured out that their parents were the real enemy of Mao. Does it make sense?
Their own parents.
Yeah, their own parents.
Right.
By then, more youths joined. At first, it's kind of elite, a group of elite kids. And then all the other kids joined. And those kids hate the parents of the political party elites. And so they went after the party elites. So many of them were killed.
Wow.
And the number one victim of the Cultural Revolution is the number 2 CCP figure. Number 2, he was the president of China, and he was Mao's arch enemy. The Red Guards went after him, and he had to go through. There is still videos, and you can watch him. The Red Guards drag him through a struggle session, and he was eventually imprisoned and then died because he was denied any medical treatment, and he had some health issues. That's what happened. So by the kids.
So it sounds like the kids must have experienced, ego inflation, or, i.e. they were drunk on power, right? It just, be so young.
Well, think about those Antifa. Okay.
Right.
Same thing. So I said, Red Guards in China now, you have a hard time understanding it. Just think about Antifa. Think about the BMMers. And so they are drunk in power because the Democratic Party is behind them. Look at the 2020. They look at Kamala. She went there and bailed them out if they are arrested at all. They know they can do whatever because they have Democratic Party behind them. Just the same thing as the Red Guards. They knew they can do whatever because Mao is behind them.
Hmm.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the Democratic Party and the Mao were using kids for their own political end, and those kids were called what? Useful idiots. And of course, they did not know. They were drunk with power. They were giving all this power to do whatever, even to kill. And here's something I think the modern Antifa or the so-called now those mobs against the ICE, because they knew that there's someone behind them. Okay. Anyway, so after Mao, after the Red Guards did exactly what Mao wanted them to do, took down the people in position of power, and Mao, they thought they would share power. They thought that Mao would give them a seat at the table. And then they start to fight each other for power, the Red Guards, and it become almost like a civil war. And at first, they were just using, sticks, rocks, but eventually they raided the military and they got real weapons and started to kill each other. And so Mao said, "That's it. They are no longer useful. There's idiots." So Mao used the military and suppressed some of the violent factions and sent all of them to where? To the countryside to get re-education. That's what the Red Guards got in the end. They were discarded when they are no longer useful. And I just really, really want the people here, the young people here, to understand it. This is Antifa members. When you are no longer useful, the same thing will happen to them as well.
What happened to them once they did the re-education? What became of them eventually?
That is called the lost generation. By the time the Cultural Revolution was over, and they missed so much. Many of them missed the opportunity to go to college, and they also missed their education. And so, yeah, it's called the lost generation. And today, in some of the big hospitals and the psychiatric hospitals, they have special wards for the former Red Guards. It's called the Red Guards wards. There's so many people just, damaged forever. Damaged, yeah.
So
That's that.
I'm wondering about so for someone like you were sent to how old were you when you went to an re-education camp?
Okay. I was not a Red Guard because I was too young. I was
Okay.
only 7. So by the
Okay.
time I graduated, those Red Guards already labored in the fields for years. You see what? So I was fortunate that I was 16 when Mao died. And soon after that, and his successor decided he has to do something. Otherwise, the whole country will collapse. He opened up universities. So at the age of 19, I was able to go to college. And
I was wondering about if you could just describe the psychological climate for someone like you. So you weren't drawn into these activities or the Red Guard activities, but what was the psychological climate for you? Was there a daily terror or fear, or did it become a normalized state of things? What was your emotional and psychological state all those years?
yeah, it's kind of hard to describe. I would say when you live in a totalitarian country, and especially for me, I never really had real conversation with my parents about what's going on around us, because I'm now thinking back, I know that every parent was concerned about talking anything political with their kids. If something went wrong, the kids can report the parents to the party, and that happened often. That the kids will report to the authority that the parents said something incorrect, politically incorrect at home. So the parents got into trouble. So I never get any guidance or anything from my parents. And outside the family, I only have one source of information. That's the party. So I never question anything, no matter how crazy things were. I just accept it. And that must be what the party wanted. And the party can never be wrong. So if the party wanted this must be okay. I think that is something that happened to a lot of people, especially for younger people. You can't think. You cannot think in the state like in an environment like that.
And that was the intention, wasn't it?
Exactly, absolutely. So that's what I'm saying. That you cannot think critically if you don't have information, especially if you don't have information that require you to make a judgment. You hear one person said this way, another said that way. You have to say, I think this way make more sense. You don't. You only have one source of voice, and that's always the party. And the party tell you whatever. I think you just accept it. I think that is what the communist system depend on. That people just don't have information. As a result, they can't think.
I was gonna say, gee, it must have been to be in that state of mind. It must have been when you came to America a long-term untangling, right? Sort of
Oh yes,
withdrawing from that state of mind and transitioning to freedom, right? I mean, there must have been an incredible transformation that took
and
place within you.
actually, it happened before I came here.
Oh yeah.
So after Mao died, and his successor Deng Xiaoping decided to open up China a little bit, to lose control, because he knew if he did not do it, the whole thing will collapse. So little by little, things start to open up. Okay, for example, during the Cultural Revolution, if you were caught listening to what they called enemy stations, such as BBC or Voice of America or Free Asia, Radio Free Asia, things like that, or Radio Free Europe, you're going to be arrested. Some people lost their lives for that offense. So I did not own a shortwave radio. So even if I want to listen to some, I did not even have a radio. But there are some braver individuals. They make their own radio, and then they listen to. Those are the people that are brave. I did not even entertain that idea, and I believed. The party said, if you listen to enemy radio, you become an enemy. So I never even tried. But then when I went to college, things started to open up. And by then, it's okay to listen to Voice America, because my major is English. And we learn English from, when I was in college, it is Chinese teaching Chinese Chinglish. We call it Chinglish. So we would listen to the Voice of America or BBC. So through that process, I just realized everything I was told before was just lies. So, but I still don't understand what freedom is. and really had no idea what freedom was. And so that was something I learned little by little after I came here. So why I learned it? Because I desperately want to be American. And I went through this process called assimilation. I read about America history, and especially I like to travel. I visited any historical place I can find. And by doing so, I learned and appreciate the founding of America. And by little, I learned what freedom really means. And but now to assimilate is being a racist, right? They don't want us to assimilate. They want multiculturalism. And I remember in the early 90s. And so I was thinking, multiculturalism. I said, if I like my culture that much, why would I bother to come to America? And I had a little question there, but I did not really think that much about it. I participated in companies multicultural day, and I cooked my Chinese food, and contributed. But now thinking back, yes, I assimilated, but so many people were stopped from being assimilated. And not only that, they were told your culture, no matter where you're from, is just as good as American culture. They're all equal. And that's how they stopped people from really wanting to be American. That's our problem today.
But it took a lot of courage for you even to take the steps to come here and to decide to leave your culture and leave your family.
Yeah, at that time, I already know, because growing up, we were taught that America is an evil country, and it's a country for the rich. Just like the kids told today in America, America is only for the billionaires. It's not for the average working class. They were oppressed. That's exactly what we were taught. But after I start to get my hands on materials, or listen to the radios, and later we can watch the American movies, I said, that is BS, I was told. America is a great place. By then, everyone wanted to come to America. Of course, only a few are lucky enough, and I was one of the few people that was lucky enough, because after college, I was teaching in a teachers training college, and then it was early 80s. There's a lot of American coming to my school and during summer to teach. And I made friends with a lady from Kentucky, and we become friends. And she told me she would like to help me to come to America to study. And so I was so grateful. But after she left, because they're only there for the summer, I said, oh, I'm sure she will forget. But she didn't. She didn't.
We have, Barb, we have 3 questions from the audience. Do you mind if I go through those?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have 3 audience questions. The first one is sort of long. So it says, have you considered that the Cultural Revolution was not Marxism, but actually the colonization by Great Britain? See the analogies. Mao was a puppet like Joe Biden. The Red Guard is Antifa. The killing in your story by a girl was feminism. Critical race theory was divide by race, class type, and class, typical of colonization. Fentanyl epidemic was the Opium Wars. What's your reaction to that, G?
That is a long, I can't quite remember. Okay. This is
the person asked, have you considered that the Cultural Revolution was not Marxism, but actually
it is absolutely Marxism. Okay. This is what I'm trying to. I think I have.
They're saying but it was actually colonization by Great Britain. That's what they're asking.
Great Britain colonization of China?
Yeah.
No. It is Marxism. Okay. So Marxism, one of the key is the doctrine. By now, every American is already familiar with. That is called oppressor and oppressed dynamic. The doctrine is the world is made of oppressors and oppressed. So what you do if you are oppressed, you fight back. You fight back, that's called class struggle. And so that was, I call it classic Marxism. So it's all about proletarians against the bourgeois, right? It's the working class against the capitalists. And that happened in Russia and in China. And so in China, people are divided into two classes. Red, meaning the working class, they're oppressed. Another is called black class, and that's basically the oppressor class. And then once they divided, everyone get a label. Everyone get a label. You're either oppressor or you're oppressed. And when you are oppressor, you are the enemy of the state. And so, and then many of them get killed. About 2 million landowners got killed just because they own land, or just because they had more than their neighbors. So that's actually worked pretty well in China, and so class division is how they divide people, but not in America. In America, class is not really a thing. You can be poor today, like many of the, Carnegie, Ford, they were not rich, born rich. But in America, you can become rich, or you can be rich and bankrupt and become poor. So class is not really a thing. It would not work if you want to overthrow the system. And that's what later we have this called cultural Marxism, is they have better ways to divide people. And that's by race. That's CRT, right? Critical race theory. And then by sex. That's basically critical feminist theory. And then turned women against men. Men become oppressor, women were oppressed. In CRT, black were the oppressed, white were the oppressor. And then black become more than black, and brown. You heard black and brown people, and then yellow people like us, like the Chinese. But now, do you know what Chinese is called? We are called white adjacent, because we're too successful. So we're no longer qualified as oppressed. So we become a half oppressor. And then that's not enough. And then they go on with, sexuality, and now transgender. And it's the same idea, but one worked in China, that's class. And here they have to be more creative. But class is not gone. And that's why we still use class as a division. And that's the AOC and Bernie Sanders faction. They want still focus on class. Now, Bernie Sanders is like 5%, right? At first, he said 5% against 95%. When he became the 5%, now he said it's 1% against 99%. It's still the same thing, it's class. But whatever they do is to divide people. When you want to take down a system, when you want to have a revolution, you got to have people divided into enemy and allies. And so it's the same thing. It's Marxist.
Oh. So we have another question. Under Mao, were social classes reduced or eliminated?
That is a good question. That was the promise. Socialism and communism promised a classless society. And that's why the communists were successful in China, because the promise free land for everyone, for the peasants. Back then, up to 90% of the population were peasants. He said, we are going to give every person land. So become all equal. And then there's no class. Is that true? Of course not. We all become equally poor except the new ruling class, which were the party elites.
So we have a comment. Someone says, they did not want you to ever think. They kept information from you at all costs so you would not think. It reminds you of all the people in the US who rapidly censure information by labeling everything that challenges their agenda as disinformation and misinformation.
Actually, they did such a great job, the communists here in America. In China, they physically control the information. You cannot, you have no access to radio, print, and television, right? But here, they brainwashed the people so well that they did not even want to know. They brainwashed, they indoctrinated people. They don't want to know the truth. They don't want to know the other side of the story. So in many ways, the cultural Marxists here are much, much more sophisticated than the Chinese communists.
And then we have another comment. It was the person who asked that first long question. He or she is saying, by the way, I'm a native Chinese born in China. I wrote that long comment about Great Britain. You know that phrase that once applied, the sun never set on Great Britain. I heard a good retort, because God did not trust them in the dark. I
I don't
was
know what that means. Well, what does that mean?
well,
Okay.
I think what she was saying was, I think she wasn't saying it wasn't communism, but I think he or she was asking if Great Britain might have been behind what the communism that was implemented in China, right? Were they pulling the strings and driving it? Was Mao, in other words, like a puppet of China, I guess, of Great Britain,
I don't think so. I don't
No.
think so. Why? Because Marxism is a Western ideology. Okay, it's not a British ideology. It is a Western ideology, and so many Westerners believe in that ideology. But the revolution was never realized, or in the Western countries. So the first one that was successfully carried out was in Russia. It's not even a capitalist society. So, and then it was the Soviet Union, it was the Russians that helped to create the CCP. So the CCP's first bankers, the people that backed the CCP is Russian, U.S., the Soviet Union. So I don't know how this. I don't know how the idea came from. It's back to Great Britain. I don't know.
Yeah. Barb, I want to see if you had any more questions. I had some questions about some sort of tangential issue. Is there anything?
Well, and yeah, I have something sort of tangential.
Go ahead.
Is that
Go ahead.
right? But I don't know if we have time to get into it. It's taking a
Yeah,
little.
we still have 20 minutes.
Oh, okay. Okay. In your book, you talked about your foundation, and she said to tear down a society, you have to destroy its building blocks.
Yeah.
And you identified those as traditions, family, religion, and morality.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk to us a bit about that?
Yes. So communism, what communists, what they want to do, they want to transform a society. And they not only want to transform the society, they want to re-engineer human nature. And all this is happening right here in America. But the building block of a society, of course, first is family. And and especially in China, the long tradition of Confucianism always put family first. So because of that, the Chinese Communist Party make sure that they have to destroy family. They did not physically destroy the family, but they demand that the loyalty of the family is not to the clan, not to the members of the family, but to the party. And so we were taught growing up that our real parents were the party. And we sing the songs, and the songs are still being sang in China. That your father is dear, your mother is dear, but no one is as dear as Chairman Mao, and no one is as dear as the party. So the loyalty is always to the party. If you have to choose between party and your parents, you don't even think twice. You choose the party. So in that way, they destroy the family, because the family become like I said earlier, my parents or any parents are really, really scared of their children. They have to be so careful talking even to each other. If the kids overheard things, they might report to the party. And then the other is, of course, religion. Because religion in every civilization is the foundation for morality. Morality is not just come from something. It's always based on religion of that particular civilization. In China, it's Confucianism. But by then, there's since middle of 1800, a lot of missionaries went to China, and they really built the churches in many parts of China. So Christianity was a force there. And so the Communist Party made sure that all of them were destroyed. And so churches were closed. Those who were not closed were under control of the party. And so, again, you can still, in big cities, you can still see some churches, but what's inside has been hollowed out and is controlled by the party. So then what is morality? How do you know right from wrong? Well, the party tells you. The party tells you this is right, that is wrong. And the party tells you it's okay to kill because those people are bad people. So that's how they destroy the society. Even today in China, there's no morality because there's no religion that tells people what's right and what's wrong. And just a few days ago, I saw this video. And if you watch, if you're on X, you're going to see a lot of this. There is a motorist had an accident, fell on the ground in the middle of a busy street. No one helped that guy. And even the buses and then the other cars and they just drove around it. No one wanted to help this poor guy. And that only happened in China.
Gee, I was wondering, I'm really interested in the psychological, again, going back to the psychological transition. So when you came to the US, I'm wondering about the idea of free speech. Did it take you a while to really accept that you could say whatever you wanted here, or was there, I mean, was it like a 3-year process to really start to feel like you could really freely express yourself? Did you hesitate at all, or did you instantly feel like I'm in my element here now because I can say what I want?
I did feel that way because in China, we were taught you think not once, not twice, but 3 times or more before you open your mouth. And then the proverb says, the disaster came out of your mouth. So your mouth is something you watch. So you censor, right? You just don't say things that might get you into trouble. So what people do, they lie. They lie to each other. because they don't want to get into trouble. But that's more than that. So when I came here, I said, well, now I don't have to watch once, and twice, and three times. But that's more because in order to say something, you have to think critically. And it took me a long time to learn to think critically. So free speech is only one thing. Free thinking is the most important thing. You can speak, but if you don't think critically, your speech does not really matter that much, I believe. So to think critically, that takes a lot of, to me, a lot of detoxification of what they put in my mind. There was a lot of things they put in my mind, and I did not even know until I came here, until my assumption was challenged. And because I remember having this conversation with my husband way back 30 some years ago, and I just said something, of course, the rich people, they can only get rich because they're exploiting the poor. He challenged me that. I got really mad. I thought that was truth. That was, of course, no matter anywhere, the rich people can only get rich by one thing, by oppressed others or exploiting others. So when he told me that, and I tried to have a debate, but I could not win that debate. And then I started to think and to get into this issue. I realized I was wrong. I was wrong. You don't have to. You don't have to exploit others in order to get rich. Not in America. So there's a lot of things you have to. Free speech. All I'm trying to say, free speech start with free thinking. If you can't think critically, your free speech is not really free speech. Do you see what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's fascinating.
Going along with that a little bit, in your book, you talk about one of the greatest attributes of Americans is our deep belief in individual liberty and natural rights. And
Absolutely.
do you see those being specifically threatened at this time, or do you think that our deep belief in them will eventually lift us past what occurred in China for a different
Yeah.
result?
Well, this is something it took me a long time to really understand the difference between communism and freedom. Okay, communism. I grew up. I never even questioned it. My rights were granted by the party. So the party tell me I can do this, but I can't do that. I just accept it. And after coming here, it took me years and years before I really understand what it means that our rights are from our Creator. So that the government can't, the government job is actually to make sure that our rights are protected. That is really something I have to say that I did not grasp it until much, much later. So because of that, and we are free people, because of that, really, because our freedom is not from the government. Our freedom is from God. But that's something that people are no longer taught. And do you know that just I think about a few months ago, the senator of my state, Team 10, he said those MAGA or those conservatives, they're absolutely radical. They think their rights are from the God, and it's not from the Congress or from the government. See, that is absolutely dangerous. And and there are a lot of young people never understood what it means that our rights are from God. because they thought it's also from the government. And
Oh,
that,
boy.
yeah, just like China.
Gee, I had a question. You a few weeks ago, you attended it was a premiere or an event around
Yeah, yes.
Matt Lohmeyer's documentary.
Mhm.
Could you just tell us just a little bit about what the event was and what the
Okay,
documentary is
yeah.
about?
I have to say I did not get a chance to show my appreciation that you changed the date, and it is kind of important. Okay, so Matt Lohmeyer was a commander in the Space Force, and so he questioned the DEI practice in the military, and he also wrote a book, and it's entitled "Irresistible Revolution," exposing what's going on in the military is really cultural Marxism. I listened to his interview before I got even involved. I think I listened to his interview early 2021. I was so impressed. At the same time, I was so disheartened that the infiltration of cultural Marxism had got into our military. And you know that the military should be the last place this kind of thing happened. So soon after, I got an opportunity to meet Matt in the event, and we became friends. And so later, and when they were making this documentary, he invited me to be part of it. So he said, because he wrote about cultural Marxism, he wanted me to be in the documentary to almost like validate his points, because DEI is the same thing that I lived through during the Cultural Revolution. So for that, I was very grateful. But this is something I really have to make a point of. I think he's clear-eyed about the threat that America is facing, the military is facing. But now more than that, he has the courage to call it out. And the courage is that he knew he's risking a lot of things. He is risking his career. He's risking losing the thing he loved most, being a pilot. And he's risking losing his pension. But yet, he made a decision. He challenged and reported his direct commander about the DEI practice in the military. And for that, he was fired. And so, fortunately, now Trump nominated him to be the undersecretary of the Air Force. So he's now back, but as a civilian. And this is something I think is a problem in America. And we heard this a lot, the silent majority. Why? Why we have this silent majority? And that is a problem. It's because people are scared. People are scared to speak up. I witnessed in my workplace, and actually I spoke up, and then I was retaliated, and that's part of the reason I decided to quit my job and devote the time to write my book. But I witnessed people dare not to speak up. And I really want to warn Americans. If you feel now that you don't want to speak up because you might lose some friends, you might lose your promotion, you might lose your job, wait until the communists took over this country. By then, you might lose your freedom and you might lose your lives. So many people lost their lives to speak up in the communist country. And so that's what I'm saying. We need courage. It is the cowardice that brought us where we are. We need courage to get out of this. And so I just think that if we continue to have this silent majority, we are giving up our freedom. We cannot be free if we're not brave. So that's why I really highly recommend that documentary. It's called Coercion Courage. And it's about you can find it in the website, coercioncourage.com. And we need more people like Matt. We need more people speak up. And here, if you dare not to speak up, you're basically voluntarily giving up your freedom.
Well, we have 3 minutes left. Barb, did you have a final question you want to ask?
Yeah, I'm not. Well, no, you go ahead.
Yeah.
Ron.
Okay. Well, I wanted to ask you. I know you have another book coming out, right? So we can see the book behind you, Mao's America, your first book.
Yeah.
So, but do you have another book coming out in January? Is it? Could you tell us about that book? We have 2 more minutes.
Yeah. And the title of the book is "Made in America: The Hidden History of How the U.S. Enabled the Chinese Communist Party and made it the great threat." So in this book, I want to tell the story that how the United States played an important role of enabling the Communist Party, Chinese Communist Party, from its creation back in 1921 all the way to today. And America played a role. And this role, because of the role America played, now we have the most powerful threat this country have ever faced. More powerful than Nazi Germany, more powerful than Soviet Union. It's because Americans back, almost back 100 years ago, never really understood what communism is about. And knowingly or unknowingly, we created our worst enemy.
Sounds like a good book.
Where can we purchase that book?
You can see it in Amazon, and it's now you can pre-order it. Oh, and you can bring me back, and then we can talk about that important topic.
Okay.
Good. All right. Well, our time is up. I want to thank Barb. Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it. It really, I think, improved the whole experience. So you asked some great questions. Yeah. Well, thank you. And G, thank you very much for joining us. We really, I think it was fascinating, and
thank you.
Many people in our audience, I'm sure, have never been able to hear what it's like to live under a communist country and then to emerge from that. So it was great. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
so
wonderful evening.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have to say, I just came back from a trip and I have a cold, so I have to drink water and cough. Sorry.
That's okay.
You're fine.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful discussion, and I love questions. It's always better to have questions than monologue.
Yeah, good. All right. Well, thanks so much, and we'll be in touch about the next book.
Yes. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks.